Hello and welcome to TVB News. The MTR today submitted to the government its initial investigation report on last Sunday's derailment incident in Yaomate Station. The rail operator said the train had hit a dislocated metal barrier next to the tracks before it derailed. Some passengers got onto the track through the emergency exit ramp in the rear of the train without the driver's knowledge. Christy Khan with details.
The MTR today unveiled its initial investigation report on last Sunday's derailment incident in Yaomate Station, which resulted in service disruption on the Chunwon line and the evacuation of some 700 passengers. Speaking to reporters today, the rail operator said the train hit a displaced metal barrier, which was 2.4 meters tall and 7 meters long, while arriving in Yaomate Station, according to their preliminary findings. As a result, the train was derailed and several carriage doors were ripped off. The MTR has set up an investigation team to look into the cause of the incident.
Our investigation will cover mainly on this mounting integrity, on its maintenance arrangement, on its wear and tear and its usage, and also look into the original design intent to find out the exact root cause of the incident and take appropriate action accordingly.
Tony Lee admitted that the public announcement on board the train following the incident might have led to confusion, causing some 150 passengers to leave the train via an emergency exit. The passengers later had to walk to Macau Station along the railway track while a train heading to Lantau on the Kuntong line was passing by. But MTR staff members were not aware of it at the time. Lee said the alert system on the train was damaged in the accident, so the driver didn't notice that some passengers had evacuated through the emergency exit in the rear of the train.
In relation to the passengers that detrained along the track to Mongkok, as I just mentioned, that is totally undesirable.
He added that the company will finish checking all installations next to railway tracks within the next 6 months. Christy Khan, TVB News.
The Hong Kong government has criticized a U.S. Congressional panel report for ill-intentioned political attacks. The annual report released by the U.S.-China Economic Security Review said Hong Kong's legal system increasingly mimics that of the mainland and threatens foreign businesses and expatriates in the city. The SAR government said it refutes the accusations. It said the report made slandering remarks against the SAR and that the new electoral process demonstrated broad representation, fair competition, political inclusiveness, and balanced participation. The report also said Hong Kong's brain drain would intensify because of its increasingly repressive security and COVID measures. The SAR government said there's no place for the U.S. to comment on the COVID policies, and Hong Kong's status as an international financial center was unshakable. Overseas, Poland said a missile landed on its side of the border in the east of the country, killing 2 men working in a grain field. The incident would be the first spillover of the war into a NATO country since Russia invaded Ukraine 9 months ago. Russia denies firing missiles in that direction. The Associated Press initially reported a U.S. intelligence official blaming Russian rockets, but later quoted U.S. officials as saying the blast may have been caused by Ukrainian air defense missiles. Nazvi Karim reports.
It was reportedly made in Russia, but was it fired from Russia? This is the critical question Western allies are asking, the answer of which may result in devastating consequences for any notion of peace in Russia's 9-month war in Ukraine. That's because the missile that killed 2 men in Światów, Poland, near the border with Ukraine, is the first to have crossed the boundaries of the war theater and landed in a NATO country. Russia denies firing any missiles in that direction. They know an attack on a NATO nation obliges a collective response from the 30 countries in the alliance under Article 5 of its constitution, which in a worst-case scenario means an all-out war against Russia. NATO envoys gathered in Brussels for emergency talks. For now, though, their leaders are taking a cautious approach. U.S. President Joe Biden, who was awoken with the news in the middle of the night while in Bali, Indonesia for the Group of 20 summit, immediately called a meeting of G7 countries. He was reluctant to blame Russia outright.
We agreed to support Poland's investigation into the explosion in rural Poland near the Ukrainian border. And I'm going to make sure we figure out exactly what happened. It's unlikely in the minds of the trajectory that it was fired from Russia. But we'll see.
It's unlikely, sir.
Poland's President Andrzej Duda said they would remain calm and conduct a thorough investigation before coming to any conclusion. He said it was most probably a Russian-made rocket, adding that security has been tightened in the country, but he doesn't expect it to happen again. While NATO takes a delicate approach to the Poland missile, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky seems to be stomping a more direct line. In an address to the nation, Zelensky said it was a Russian missile attack on collective security, calling it a very significant escalation in the war and that we must act. Russia's defense ministry denies its missile had hit Polish territory, saying the reports were a deliberate provocation aimed at escalating the situation, with some experts saying that the rocket may have been deflected by Ukraine defenses. This as Russia continues to bombard major cities in Ukraine, targeting mostly power facilities and leaving most of the country in darkness. Reportedly, 85 missiles were fired in a single day. Blackouts in Kiev, Kharkiv and Lviv are a constant reminder to Ukrainians that Moscow is not about to let up, despite significant losses in the east and south. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
In Indonesia, the Group of 20 summit in Bali closes this evening. The two-day event was upended by the missile landing in Poland and the war in Ukraine. However, some issues were agreed on, such as limiting the rise in global temperatures. Tracy Furness has more.
The leaders of the world's largest economies spent the final day of the G20 summit in Bali planting trees in a mangrove Wednesday. Each leader planted a single tree before touring the rest of the mangrove. This as the leaders agreed to pursue efforts to limit the rise in global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius and recognize the need to speed up efforts to phase down coal. They also agreed to pace their interest rate hikes carefully to avoid spillovers and warned of increased volatility in currency moves. In a declaration signed Wednesday, the G20 members said the world economy was facing unparalleled multidimensional crises ranging from the war in Ukraine to a surge in inflation. This forcing many central banks to tighten monetary policy. US President Joe Biden met with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today to talk about Ukraine. However, a planned G20 meeting between Sunak and President Xi Jinping was cancelled due to scheduling issues, a Downing Street spokesperson said. Biden and Xi held talks ahead of the G20 summit Monday. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said at a press conference that candid, in-depth, constructive and strategic communication on major issues concerning China-US relations, as well as the prospects for global peace and development, were discussed. Wang noted the significance of the meeting. He said it was the first in-person meeting between the heads of state of China and the United States in 3 years, the first in-person meeting between Xi and Biden since the latter became the US president. Biden left Indonesia today having attended the two-day meeting. However, the day's schedule was disrupted by an emergency meeting to discuss the missile landing on Polish territory. President Xi attended the third session of the G20 summit Wednesday. The meeting comes as the leaders of the world's largest economies appeared ready to send a strong message to Russia condemning its invasion of Ukraine. However, a draft declaration seen Tuesday says the G20 summit in Indonesia is not the forum for resolving security issues. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Also in the U.S., House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has taken a first step towards potentially becoming the new House Speaker. The California Republican won the nomination on Tuesday from his GOP colleagues in a secret ballot election. With the Republicans on the brink of sealing control of the House after the November 8th midterm elections, McCarthy will face a formal vote when the new U.S. Congress convenes in January. He will need the backing of at least 218 lawmakers to succeed. Despite expressing satisfaction with the end of the Democrats' majority rule, McCarthy said he's willing to put aside political divisions to get what is best for the American people done. Back in Hong Kong, since last year, the government has relaxed its restrictions on non-locally trained doctors practicing in the city, with the Medical Council having approved 7 out of 10 applications. But some patients' rights groups have expressed disappointment with the low numbers, saying that the measure has yet to relieve the problem of long waiting times for specialist clinics. Timothy Lee tells us more.
In an attempt to solve Hong Kong's problems in relation to the long public hospital waiting lists, the government amended the medical registration ordinance last year. The new changes allowed qualified overseas doctors to practice in Hong Kong via a special registration. Speaking at the Legislative Council, Secretary for Health Lo Chung-Mao said the Medical Council has received over 80 inquiries about the amended ordinance since early June. So far, the Medical Council has received 11 applications. All applicants are qualified specialist doctors, with the highest number specializing in gastroenterology and hepatology. However, only 7 applicants were approved. Besides the ear, nose, and throat specialist who was denied approval, at least 1 specialist from each category was approved. But Alex Lam, a spokesperson of a patients' rights group in Hong Kong, believes that the government should approve more specialists. He noted that waiting times in public hospitals could take up to several years, and that with a meager 7 approvals, no positive changes have been made for the city's patients. Lam said the Medical Council's Special Registration Committee should swiftly announce a new list of approved specialists and non-locally trained medical practitioners to alleviate Hong Kong's public healthcare crisis. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Police in Hong Kong and Macau have arrested 56 people in a joint operation against job scams. Authorities say 46 of the suspects were apprehended in Hong Kong and the other 10 in Macau. 3 of the arrestees were said to be core members of the crime syndicate. Hong Kong police seized multiple mobile devices, credit cards, and bank documents during the operation. Officers said the syndicate advertised job openings with high salaries on social media to attract applicants. The applicants were later told to make purported online purchases and transfer money to bank accounts controlled by the fraudsters. Police said a total of 131 people in Hong Kong and Macau had been scammed out of more than $7 million. And a research team from the Chinese University School of Architecture has been granted $12.5 million by the Lantau Conservation Fund to restore a historic campsite. Located on Sunset Peak, the Lantau Mountain Camp is the only remaining structure in southern China and Southeast Asia to have its unique stone cabin design. As the site suffered damage caused by an increasing number of tourists in recent years, the Chinese university's research team said it will team up with locals on Lantau Island to restore and reshape the cabins. The team believes the project will take 3 years to complete and aims to transform the campsite into a conservation research center. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.